Hello, hello. I'm My Holland, your host for today. So you French, Aussie, Vietnamese, and today I'm based in Australia. And also your guide on writing the cultural journey. So welcome to Mosaic Mind podcast. I love chatting with fascinating leading women, and we will explore how their cultural background have informed their leadership styles. Here we delve into the fascinating interplay between culture, leadership, and especially focusing on how those women are shaping Vietnam. So this is season 2. We will chat with women working in Vietnam who are not also Vietnamese. So today we have the pleasure of welcoming Angelique Masse Nguyen. And Angelique is a social entrepreneur, impact leader with over 15 years of experience mobilizing cross-sector partners for gender equality and women's empowerment. So she's the co-founder and managing director of NOI, a women-focused media platform in Vietnam. And previously, I think when we met in Vietnam years ago, you work also at Saigon Children's Charity, and she loves data. And you are now also in international consultant for the UN Women in Vietnam. So through NOI, Angelique have amplified women's voices and helped brands connect with Vietnam's $114 billion female economy under gender-sensitive marketing strategy. And I want to hear more about this. So beyond your professional accomplishment, Angelique is also a mother of 3 little munchkins and staunch believer in celebrating the multifaceted journey of women. Welcome, Angelique.
Hi, me.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Okay, so let's start with a fun question. And this is just to know a little bit about your global background, how your global background influenced your breakfast choices. Are you croissant, pain au chocolat, pho, banh mi, or what is it? What do you prefer?
I'm more on the salty side. So when I moved to Vietnam, I was very happy because there was plenty of salty options. And so when I drove my kids to school, most of the time I'm going to pick up a banh mi on the way back for my breakfast.
So you're a banh mi. Okay, so you're
Yes.
banh mi pate.
Right.
All right, got it. Okay, so tell me more about your name, where you're from, so I can hear some French accent and I know that this is how we connected, years ago. But tell me more about your name, where you're from, and, and then after that, we're going to talk, about your professional career as well and respiration.
So I'm French, born in France, and I can't say that I belong to one place in France because my father was in the army, so we moved around a lot. And I met my husband that has Vietnamese origin, so that's why I carry on the proud Nguyen name in my family name. It's a very the name story is a strong story for me because when we got married, I didn't want to lose my family name. And in France, when you get married, it's very common for you to take your husband's name. Now there is more trend around bringing two names together, but it's still not the first choice. And then also, according to French law now, your husband could also just use your name, his wife's
Tell me
name.
more about that. Tell us more about this because I do recall that he also have your name.
Yes, and so
Other people.
So when we got married, we really wanted to keep both our name. We wanted my name to be first and his name to be second. And then when we said that to his Vietnamese parents, it was a big drama. So and we understood their position because they were really not used to that. Even if in Vietnam, in fact, Vietnamese women they keep their name, they never take their family name. But okay, we want our name to be first and so on. And so okay, so we said okay, we'll do that for our family for later on when we'll have kids. And then when we moved to Vietnam, I did not feel comfortable calling myself Angelique Masse because I thought it was going to be super confusing for people when I was working, because when you send email and so on, they would assume that I'm Vietnamese when I'm not. And so I said, okay, I'm going to switch it the other way around. But still, I have so many questions every time I have meetings, and some people are always asking about my name. Oh, but you carry Nguyen in your name. Why? What's the story? Most of the time, people assume that I've been adopted by a Vietnamese family. And so I explained, no, it's because my husband, so I carry his name. And that's very weird because for me to navigate that here, because I want to keep carrying that name because now it's my family name. I have kids and my kids are called Nguyen Masse. So Nguyen first and then Masse. And so I want to feel part of the family. And I want to show respect to my in-laws also. So yeah, so there's always so much at play with my name. And I think a couple years ago, my husband started to use both names because he was always only carrying Nguyen until then. And then our kid was Nguyen Masse and I was Masse Nguyen. So mixing around those names. And then he started professionally to embrace our family name and to use Nguyen Masse in all his professional capacities. And I don't know if he has question about it. I never asked. I know it was conscious for him, to make that choice, but I don't know if anyone asked him. I'm sure nobody asked, because it's an international background. It's just, okay, it becomes an international name. When for me, it's always a question.
And, every story, everyone has a story about their name. And after that, you're so right, just mentioning that actually in France, the traditional old culture that, you take your husband's name, if nowadays is different. But in Vietnam, women don't change. They don't take their husband's names. And I have to say, I discovered that, years ago as well. So there is something really interesting, in terms, and you work in gender as well. So I think this is a lot of topic, just to talk about how different, the Vietnamese customs compared to the French one and other countries as well, are really into those, do I take the name? Do I give up my identity or not? So, and I think there's a lot of talk about that. And today I'm really interested, into your cultural influence. And this is what we talked about. And I recall that you said that you travel a bit and you live in a few countries in Africa. Is it right?
Yes. So when I was a kid, we moved to Djibouti. That is a small country in between Ethiopia and Somalia. And so I've lived there when I was young, like 10 to 12 years old. But then when I was 18, my parents moved back there. So when I was at uni, my parents were over there. And so I have younger sister. So my younger sister was still there. So I was going there during all the uni break. And then later on, when I moved to Vietnam, so 10 years ago, my parents moved back over there. And so they were, I was in Vietnam and they were back in Africa. So yeah, so I think from a very young age, I was exposed to what it means to be French, because I think you discover what it means to be French when you live abroad.
Exactly.
And so that's really, I was very conscious of what culture play on how I'm going to in society. And so for a very young age, I got this into my head about, okay, there is something that I'm doing because I'm French, or in my home we do that because we are French. I was always very aware of that.
Right. And how long have you been in Vietnam now? How long have you been living here?
So 10 years now.
Is it 10 years? Wow, that's a big celebration to do.
Yes.
Okay, so you have been founding NOI. So how do you pronounce it properly? And can you tell us a little bit more about what inspired you to create NOI and how have you evolved it into the platform that, it is today? So what's the story behind?
So NOI, so I say it without any accent. And it was on purpose. And yes, because NOI in Vietnamese can mean so many different things according to the accent. So it can mean speaking, mentoring, crib, network, so many different things. And so we play around. So that gives us a lot of way to play with the word. But then the main name is without any accent. And so I co-founded NOI. It's going to be 4 years now ago. Because I've been working in the social impact sector for 10 years now in Vietnam. And I've been working with lots of wonderful women and doing a more and more program around education for girls, mentoring program with women, and all the great Vietnamese women that I was meeting and discussing. And because through those programs that are very focusing on supporting women reach their ambitions, you get them to talk about their aspiration and what they care about in their life. And what was important for them and their struggles, what they were, the barrier they were facing, or just their aspiration. I could not see anyone talking about that. And the way they were living their life, what was important for them, their values, it was not how women were represented in the media, in the movies, in the TV shows, or anything like that. And for me, that was strange because it was so much powerful story. They had so many things to say, and there are no platform, nowhere where we could hear about their stories and hear their voices. And because I was working in these development sectors, I could see the impact of educational programs. You're going to change lives. But the issue is that you're going to impact only a small cohort of people at a time. You are going only to empower the 20 people that you are able to sponsor to go to university. And so with the different social workers I was working with that are mostly Vietnamese women, we were all like, okay, frustrated about, we know we do great things, but we could do so much more. And so we wanted to do something different. And we understood that the only way to have a faster impact was to address the culture gap. And so to really look at the media representation and the gap in media representation for Vietnamese women. And that it's all about, and now we have powerful tool, we have social media. And so we really wanted to be on that everyday tool that everybody consume and see every day, the content that you're going to see on TikTok, on Facebook, and provide a platform, use those platforms to tell the stories of women. And so that was this idea that initiated NOI. And then by doing that, when we started so NOI is a media platform, we have our own website, on any kind of social network channel, and we tell stories about women. So it's girls that are going to share what is important for them, how they are navigating life. And doing that, what we discover is that, yes, it's great to have the content, but in fact, the secret power is the community that you are building behind that. Because when you start to tell your story, you feel stronger. And then you have lots of people that are saying, oh, but in fact, I'm like you. I feel the same. And then you have this peer reinforcement. Yeah. And that's really what creates a very big boost in confidence. And so now that's what NOI is focusing about. We still have those content that we provide, but we are also focusing on creating moments for women to meet. So we have workshops, masterclass. We wrote 2 books, and we really try to offer this network, this opportunity for women to meet and to feel reinforced. And we believe that keeping doing that online using digital world is helping us to get a much, much faster national reach at a very lower cost than if you were trying to go and talk to each people in the real world.
So scaling up.
Yes.
Yeah. So how far can you reach to Vietnam, in those programs, so can you reach, like really out there, in the mountains, where is your biggest reach and where do you need to go?
So currently, we have around 60,000 followers across different social media. And so every month it's up to 500,000 women that interact with our content online. So it's a big reach and it's national. We have a very national reach. So up to the north to south of Vietnam, and we are 70% urban and 30% rural. And our rural reach is mostly in the Mekong Delta. And we explain that because of our content creators. Because we have some girls that creating some stories that are from the Mekong Delta, then their friends heard about it and so on. And so that's how we got that reach over there.
Okay, so you need some content creator based in the north then.
Exactly. Yes. And so we have a very good reach in Hanoi because we have lots of content creator. The team is very well represented in Hanoi, but then yes, in most the mountainous area and so on, not yet. And then the age split is very much 18 to 34, and we are even. But it's very funny because we have a younger audience on Instagram and TikTok, for example, and older audiences on Facebook.
Okay, that's interesting. So basically, you have a national reach, more in the south at the moment, but you're looking at other areas as well. So that is fantastic, and I love those big numbers, the reach that you're having in only less than 4 years. So what would be an advice that you want to share with some aspiring young or not so young women, who are leading their own ideas, dreams, anything that they really want to know. So what would be an advice, for those startup women who had that mindset? Should I don't? What would it be for you, for them, so that they can really make the move?
So I think it's all about finding people that are going to reinforce you, because we often sit on our ideas and we sometimes don't feel like, should I do it or not? Or I don't know how to do it. And so for me, it's really about creating this network of people, of girlfriends that are going to help you trust that, okay, that's the right direction that you should move toward to. And then the other thing that I always now encourage people, especially entrepreneurs, to think about is, how are you going to make money with your idea? It needs to be really top of your mind. It's not just about, okay, I have a good idea that's going to be smart and so on. You need to know, okay, how am I able to monetize that idea? Because it's the only way to make it sustainable and to go in the long run, especially when you know that access to investment and funding for women-owned businesses is so much harder. And in our current economic context, or there is less and less investment available, the only way really for you to grow is to think about that. And I'm not saying that it needs to be big money right away. It's just about for you to be aware of, okay, how much time is it going to be my main income or not, or is it a side hustle? And then how do I want to grow it to the next phase or not? But to always have this, okay, economical thinking about how I'm going to monetize that idea will help people not waste your time in something that is not going to grow. But it can also be a passion project, and it can just be because it's filling up your cup, and making you feel happy and so on, and that's okay too.
Yeah. So what was your motivation when you started? Was it, that passion, or a little bit of everything, or what was the...
For us,
Yeah.
it was both. It's always been both. It was, okay, when we started, we knew that there were an economic opportunity behind creating a media platform for Vietnamese women in Vietnam, because I'm coming from a marketing and communication background and fundraising. So, and our team, the co-founding team also. So we knew that there were a need from businesses to understand marketing for women. We knew that there were women that are going to invest into their capacities and in trainings and so on. There is also opportunity to monetize over there. But from day one, it was, okay, where the stage we are in needs to be enough for us.
Right.
We need to find joy in where we are today. And yes, we have this vision, we have this big plan, we know it can become big, but we always need to be able to find joy in where we are today, because that's what we have, and that's what is going to fuel us to continue and so on. So we were always mindful in, okay, what do I need to make it rewarding for me right now? And so joy and purpose have always been the foundation, but with this business vision.
Right. So joy and vision, so that will help those ladies, who are considering a startup, to make their voice heard, really, to take their first step towards leadership, really. So, okay. So we talked about how people can start, your passion and your mixed passion with a sustainable way of developing as well. So, and you also mentioned about, the impact of the women's sector on the Vietnamese economy. Can you share with us a little bit more about some example about how you have the NOI has empowered women beyond the economic numbers? But what more have you touched upon?
So NOI is based on the fact that 80% of that women control 80% of the purchasing power in Vietnam. So if you want to sell something, you need to sell to women.
Yes, I remember you were...
when you talk to women, 79% of women are going to tell you that they don't see themselves represented in the ads or in the media they consume. So you have a big disconnect. Women buy, but then brands, they don't know how to interact with them. And so that's why we really feel that we need to learn more about women. We need to tell their stories so their aspirations are more understood by consumer brands. And for us, it's super important. It's not just about selling more. It's because the brands have so much impact on how we perceive women's role in society. It's how you're going to, it's what you're going to tell in your ads, the stories that all those consumer brands are saying that are going to shape also the role of women in society. And we really want to make this advocacy that if you have gender sensitive marketing, you will sell more. And so for us, because for us, it's super important to make these economic arguments. It's not just, of course, it's great to present women with respect, but it has economic value. It's not just nice. It makes smart
Just
on the business side. And so that's why NOI has been working a lot with brands and so on. And through that, we have been able to develop super great programs. For example, we are working with a leading Vietnamese insurance on financial literacy for women. And we've been able to create a website where women can train themselves on investment strategies. And so there is a series of videos of Vietnamese leaders, women that are sharing their perception about money, their mindset, and their tips and so on. And we are organizing workshops, masterclass for women to be able to train themselves of how can I save money, what can be my investment strategies and such. So we have this pillar on finance that has been super important for us. And then we just launched a podcast on motherhood. So because for us, it's super important to address any aspect of woman's life and to keep sharing this mission. And there is not one way of doing it, and to provide diversity of experience and stories. And there is so much to share when you talk about motherhood. We also provide women with, there is 2 books that are available. There is one about leadership, and we are going to release one very soon around how to live well with your periods. Period is super taboo in Vietnam with people, but at the same time, women want to talk more about it. So it's really a book where different women are sharing their experience and to discover and live well with your periods.
It's not just in Vietnam, I think so in many countries. But okay, so talking about motherhood, so this is absolutely not a sexist question. We both work in gender equality, so we know that. So being a mom, I'm a mom myself. Can you tell us, how you juggle your day? And if you were a guy, I would have asked the same question. Okay, so it's not
Yeah.
I'm asking
And
that.
I'm very happy to talk about
because
my
I
experience
think
of
you have
motherhood.
3 little one, right? So
Yes, I have 3
you
kids.
have startup. So how do you do all this?
So I have 3 kids, 2 boys, 1 girl, from 2 years old to 9 years old. And I'm not shying away for talking about motherhood anymore. And I must confess that you would have asked me when I got my first kid, I would have feel uncomfortable. Not because I don't want to share about it, but because I would have felt not professional. I was really into this, I really fell into that trap that mother can be professional. And I think it took me my 3 kids to really build up my resiliency and to really build my confidence about the fact that you can be a mom and a professional. So I've always wanted to work, but I was very, but because of this stereotype of when you become a mom, you're going to be less professional, I really fell into the trap of being a Wonder Woman, of trying to make it all and so on. And I think I only realized that, maybe a couple of years ago, after my 3rd kid. And so when I was with my kids, at first it was really much about, I didn't want motherhood to impact my career. I wanted to keep proving that I can do everything and so on. And it was not pressure. It was not, I was privileged enough of having the choice of keeping working or of taking care of my kid. And I always took to go back to work. I took very short maternity leave. My 1st kid, I was back at work when my kid was 6 weeks old. My 2nd kid, 2 months old. And my 3rd kid, I waited when he was 3 months old. But it really took some time for me to realize that I had fallen in that trap of being afraid of motherhood impacting my professional life. But at the same time, I've been able to do a lot because I was in Vietnam, and I must address all the privilege that I had. I have the privilege of earning enough money that I can afford care. And so I've always had a full-time nanny. So I'm not going I'm not a superwoman. I'm just someone that earned enough money to be able to pay a nanny that was with me from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. and taking care of my kids. And that was super flexible. And if I had a late meeting and so on, I just had to pick up the call and she would stay to take care of my kids. My other privilege is not really a privilege. It's more like I made a smart choice, my partner. I think it's super important to pick your partner very well. So I have a partner that's tending to equal partnership. It's not perfect. Not going to say it's perfect, but it's better. And for example, I never took care of any of my babies at night. My husband have been doing all the night feeding for all my three kids. And so that's why I've been able to juggle and do so much. And for me, that's really, it's a privilege. I got access because I've been in Vietnam and we got access to jobs that were paying me enough to afford care. I don't think I would have three kids if I was still in France.
So this is what I was thinking, like, if we were in France, like I was in Australia when I had my two daughters, life was very different. So this is why, and I think it's very wise, to mention that, actually when we live in Vietnam and work in Vietnam, we have privileges that other countries actually don't have access to. To put childcare, baby in childcare, you have to pick the baby up at 3:00, for instance, in Australia. So in Vietnam, you don't have that. You have the nanny at home, which actually allow everyone, to have also, to dive into the startup that you're mentioning. So it's very nice, to mention that. And I like the notes about, about your husband as well. So yes, he's a nice guy. Okay. And what would you say, to people who don't really know about Vietnam? About, what is it that if you come back to France tomorrow, for a while, what would you say to those people who don't know Vietnam? What is it that you have learned about Vietnam that you can take back or take to France, for instance?
So for me, the big learning I got is to not be afraid of entrepreneurship. When we look back at when I was at uni and so on, I always saw that people that were entrepreneur and creating their own business, they were crazy. For me, you needed to have a big ego, to think that you are worthy, that you are going to have an idea that's big enough so you can create your own business. They were like, those people are crazy.
Sorry,
And moving to Vietnam, I really realized, no, it can be something small. And the fact that here people are often having several commitments, several jobs, that you don't have only your one job, you can do several things at the same time. That provides me so much more freedom and flexibility in how I'm addressing my career. And I think that's why I do a lot of things. And for a lot of people from the Western world, they are thinking like, oh, you do too many things or you do so many things. But here it's quite normal, in fact. And it doesn't mean that I'm doing all my commitment at full time or that I'm making money from all my commitments. That's not the case. But but I got so much from it. I was able to expand my networks. I was able to learn new skills. I was able to start new field, new industries that by just taking a commitment of managing a network of women, for example, I was, as you were mentioning, part of Shield of Data, that is an organization helping women enter technology career. I was not with a tech background and so on, and I learned so much from it. I got more technical skills. I got into this new area of the tech startups and so on. And I think that's what built up my confidence in starting my own business, is that has a tech element in it. So really, I will cherish always for Vietnam to bring me that capacity of embracing that you can start something and it doesn't need to be big. It doesn't need to be successful. Just start it because, okay, it's something that you want to do and that's enough. That's a reason strong enough.
Beautiful. And the last question that I want to ask you, so this is a question that I ask, all our podcast team. So the show here is called Mosaic Mind. And really it's about, creating a mind with, piece of mosaics about, skills that you have been mentioning today. So what is the message that you want to give to our listeners today about, how to embrace a mosaic mind so again to be the person that people want to do? What are the skills that we are needed to put in that mind, which makes a beautiful mosaic mind from everywhere around the world?
I think it's to be really to understand what are your own constructs and your own biases, because that's how you're going to be open-minded to understand how other people are thinking. And I think the fastest way to do that is to live abroad, because yes, when you are in another culture, in another country, who you are is going to be so obvious to yourself that, okay, it's going to allow you to learn much, much faster.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think we're on the same page on that one. But yeah, so Angélique, thank you very much for making time today, to talk with us and sharing, your words of wisdoms and sharing, how you started and how you got the idea and how you can make it happen, and inspire other women, to follow the lead as well. So if you want to connect with her, so we have the link on LinkedIn, underneath. And please, all our listeners, tell us where you're calling from, where you want to, where you're listening from. So really know. So we want you to know absolutely, the profile of our listeners. So Angélique, thank you very much for your time today, and
You're welcome.
have fun with your 3 little munchkins.
Thank you. Thank you so much, me, for the
Bye.
invitation.